first aspect and assumption I think we should all build is no one is an expert out here, because we are still learning out here. There's so much, I would say, hype which has happened in the last few years, but if we look at what organizations are doing, they're also trying to jump the bandwagon in terms of what they believe could be a game changer for their crucial survival. I give an example out here that 25 years back, when the Standard & Poor metrics used to be published for top 500 Fortune companies, their average tenure in those, I would say, index used to be almost 30 odd years. Cut to a last 5-year stage, we're talking about the same set of organizations not being there, and the average tenure of an S&P 500 set of companies is just about 12 years. So today, the large organizations have to prove themselves in 12 years, otherwise they are not relevant. And what could be a change in terms of they being relevant or not is something what technology will be, I would say, a decider in terms of what needs to be done. And I want to take some cases out here in terms of one, I will not dwell on the side where I say what AI is not able to do. I think there are enough rhetoric today against automation, elections getting influenced by AI, and a lot of these, I would say, defense or other kind of, let's say, activities getting more intervened by AI. I think let's not go over that side of the pitch. I think it's more to do with, in my own conversation with clients, prospects, Fortune 500 companies, I think there is a lot of learning which is happening today. And all of us, being part of, I would say, this active, I would say, field and practice, and even who are aspiring, would actually gain in terms of something what I could say it could be a game changer. So let me just start on this. Okay, first of all, my apologies. My laptop yesterday night crashed, and I was talking to Dr. Shinu that it's a makeshift laptop, so if anything happens not so kind of a good out here, don't blame me, please. So this is where I would say that I think how today analytics and AI is influencing what I say decision making. I want to start with a kind of a narrative or a story. This is a story about a gentleman in the picture who's in the background called Makato. Makato parents are farmers. And farming in Japan is still considered to be a very revered, sought-after profession. And Makato parents are growing cucumber. Cucumber in Japan, by the way, is a very sought-after variety and a crop. And there are 8 varieties of cucumber over there which are auctioned and wedded every week. And when Makato finished his engineering and studied a lot of stuff around engineering, he went back to his parents' farm, and that's where he clicked this picture. The first thing his mother said, Makato, I'm spending too much time in the farm, and there's so much of manual intervention that maybe we're not able to give you time and all. And that set Makato thinking. And he said, okay, let me try something which I've learned, given a gradual learning helps. He said, I've learned so much about AI. Can I put some features of AI to use to help my parents? And what Makato immediately did, he had an iPhone. He clicked about 5,000 pictures of within his farm of the cucumbers, and there are 8 varieties of cucumber sorted by text, kind of color and length and all. And he started labeling and annotating those cucumbers and pictures in terms of different, I would say, variety. And what he started doing was to kind of then collaborate in terms of the auction price, the bid price, and then started sorting all these things. Interestingly, what he did, because he didn't have much money, he actually downloaded a Raspberry Pi 3 controller, which is costing $35 on his laptop, and started kind of doing some kind of algorithmic making in terms of looking at the prices, the yield, the cucumber which their farmers are growing. And first time when the algorithms came up, it threw about 72% accuracy, wasn't satisfied. And then what he did, he also downloaded a TensorFlow, Google open source kind of a tool, and started implementing more algorithms. And until he realized he's hit about 88-90%, which is good to go. And this is a factual story. 18 months before, this was done, and today his parents' income has gone up by 400% in terms of picking up the right variety of cucumber and just spending $35. This is the impact we are talking about, what artificial intelligence can do for the humanity. And I think if we do a kind of a, let's say, pullback or a throwback, I think the genesis of all this is data. I think 10, 15 years back, we talked much about data. And the fact today is that even if you look at this slide, it's not relevant. Data is growing so fast, by the time I talk and run you through this slide, it's already outdated. Give an example, 1 zettabyte of data is equivalent to all the video titles on the Netflix multiplied by 470 million times. That's the quantum velocity of data we are talking about, and it's unprecedented. And what's changed and added to the complexity is the social digital data. Different sources today, and organizations have no idea today how to capture structured, unstructured set of data, combined with the digital data, and create some insights for their end customers or their organizations. But this is where we say that if we take the evolution of analytics to AI, this is what has happened. If you see the left side of the picture, I would say close to about 10, 15 years back, there used to be, if you see downside, business processes as the fulcrum, as the center, and analytics used to be at the periphery and the fringes. And it was more about business intelligence, data warehousing. The focus was more around big data, assimilating data, aggregating data, and less of insights. What's changed in the last 10 years, I would say, there's something called an acronym SMAC came in, Social Mobile Analytics Cloud. Many of you would have heard. That's where analytics started getting into mainstream, becoming more smart, embedded, pervasive within the organization. Cut to a stage where we're talking about now almost every device and machine getting fitted with the sensors and analytics generating insights, recommendation, and I would say results for the organization. And to the stage where we're talking now, analytics has become more fulcrum, central to every organization. And that's where we say that today, there is a talk today that analytics has become so strategic, it's being discussed in the boardrooms and CXO discussions as well. Now, what I would say, what started this whole revolution, and I go back to the days, rather I would say 99, I started my career with Gillette, 97 rather. And I remember as a part of leading the strategy team and market research at that point of time, my CEO in Gillette always used to ask me, where is the MIS report? One single sheet page of the report capturing all the financial, health, key metrics of the organization. And I could relate at that point of time, that was the holy grail of something remotely called analytics for the organization. That was something I would say the first primitive stage of analytics. Then came something where we say ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning. All the data from the different functions and departments, sales, marketing, HR, accounting, started talking to each other. The whole aspect of building a proprietary system, I would say data talking to each other and generating a daily P&L became talk of the town. What was missing was still insights. Then came the whole genre of what we say business intelligence, data warehousing tools, Cognos, MicroStrategy, Teradata. The whole focus was about let's start aggregating, let's start kind of looking at how we can assimilate the data. Still, there was this whole aspect of analytics missing because the data alone cannot do all these things. Now, if I give this analogy of the car, how the whole aspect of our understanding of analytics has changed, it becomes much more simpler. Though this is in the concept of a US driving car. If you see on the left hand side, the rear view car or the side view car of, I would say the side view mirror of the car is more about when you drive the car, you are able to gauge the cars which are coming in the background, but you don't gauge the speed at which the cars are coming. So you're still blindsided in terms of knowing you have something in the background, but you have no clue at what kind of a rate it can even hit you if you are not attentive. Now, as you move in, which is what we say more about hindsight, the regular reporting, BI, dashboarding, KPI, metrics and all. As you move inside the car, in terms of the dashboards, you see all these kind of a dashboard displaying the speed of the car, the fuel consumption. Now, this is more about what I say is oversight and insight. You can rely, you can actually understand that what's happening, the data is getting mined, the data is kind of getting more, I would say, harmonized. You can make some sense in terms of decisions. But what changes, which is the fulcrum of analytics, is the foresight. Today, cars are getting fitted with the Google Maps. So from REVA University, if you want to go to, let's say, Bellandur, you just put those directions, you get the kind of a distance and the time it will consume, and you trust Google Maps with no kind of a, let's say, hesitation. That's the single source of truth, the foresight on a preemptive basis can give you in terms of what is essential decision making. And today organizations are relying for analytics to help them take decisions. So from problem solving to decision making, it's a big change. Now this is where I think some of you would have seen this slide. There has been a genre shift in terms of analytics. What used to be descriptive base of the pyramid for analytics has become more prescriptive analytics today. And let me tell you, the story is still not over. Because from here, we are talking about a whole new set of artificial intelligence. Now, the definitions may vary of artificial intelligence, but the use cases today, what's happening in the organizations are humongous. Now, if the complexity has not been further, I would say, aggravated, let me put one more layer, digital. Now, the fact today is that 5 years back when we all heard this term digital, the first thing came to my mind was digital Casio watch. Really? Now, the fact today is that I think if I ask in this room what's digital, each one of us will have a different definition. But the fact today is that every organization today is understanding the criticality what digital can do for them. In my own understanding, I believe there are three critical components and dimensions of digital. One, it's reimagining the customer experience. Today, how each one of us consume product and services is far more different how we were consuming or our parents were consuming 10, 15, 20, 30 years back. We all know that today how Flipkarts, Amazons of the world track our user behavior and recommend products basis that. So today, decision making in terms of influencing the customers, in terms of personalization, is altogether a different definition which comes under digital. The second thing what digital has done, it's compelled organization to innovate product and services. I remember a time where in Gillette, we used to launch a product and say, okay, now let the market forces drive that consumption of the product. Primary, secondary, tertiary sales were the only yardstick, not anymore. And what's happening in the third dimension of digital, which is very radically different, is it's compelling organization also to transform, disrupt, and innovate their organization. Few years back, there were no definition of chief innovation or chief transformation officer. Today, almost all organizations are thinking on those terms, and many of them also have these titles and professionals who are running. The fact today is that it's simple, that the business value chains of existing mainline businesses have gone defunct, redundant. How banking, or rather how fintech today is revolutionizing banking, we all know that. Healthcare getting redefined by health. I think that's where, if we talk about digital, the biggest thing which is game-changing in digital is analytics, and I want to give some use cases to make it much more in terms of credence. Now, this is where we say, now I talked about data, I talked about evolution, but if data alone can solve the problems of the world, enterprises may have been good, but actually, algorithms are the one which is providing insights, intelligence, and recommendation to the organization. And this is where the term algorithms have become so powerful today. I think nations are also talking about that. Look, there is an algorithm which works for you, and there is an algorithm which doesn't work for you. And I don't need to kind of talk about these organizations, but when you simply look at these organizations, you can relate. Maybe for some of you, these are asset-light, new age, digital set of organization. For me, these are math houses. Each and every aspect of these organizations, Amazon, Google, Netflix, Pandora, Uber, they have IP-able patented algorithms running beneath the core of their organizations, compelling them to make those strong decisions and insights for the customers and for their organizations. And the algorithms have become so powerful, they decide the fate, how the financial projection of these organizations will look like. And this is which comes to the fact today is that if algorithms have become so smart, so kind of, let's say, embedded within our organization systems and humanity, I can think of a scenario which is fast forward few years from now coming, realistic and absolutely, I would say, possible. Think, how many of you trade in scripts, stocks? Now, when you go to a kind of a, let's say, open your online kind of account in terms of trading, you buy, sell scripts. You look at the prices, you look at the kind of some fundamentals, reports of the organizations, and you buy and sell those scripts basis that. Think of a scenario, an organization who has a supply chain, marketing, sales, accounts, finance problems. They don't know what to do. They've tried multiple kind of methods. There is a place or a marketplace called algorithmic exchange. There are millions of algorithms being traded over there. Each and every algorithm is possibly IP-able, patented, managed by a lot of these niche kind of boutique organizations and firms. And they're trying to solve different business problems for the enterprises. Supply chain problem, marketing, finance, HR kind of problems. You go to that marketplace, you look at a demo, you kind of do a kind of a quick on-the-go POC with that algorithm, you like it and you buy it. Somewhere, this possibility in terms of how algorithms can solve the problems of the organizations would become a reality. And this is where we say that essentially when we are talking about organizations taking decisions under digital, algorithms will become very, very mainstream. Now, until now, this was more, I would say, conceptual, contextualized. Now, you may be wondering where the whole aspect of algorithms and where is this whole new aspect of AI comes into the picture. Let me start the series on this now. Now, this is where we say when algorithms become so strong, at some level, we are also talking about algorithms, virtually maybe Mr. or Miss algorithms sitting in the boardroom, virtually, taking decisions, either in conjunction with the board members or outside because they have built so much of kind of a data, they are able to take decisions standalone on their behalf. And this is where we say when algorithms go wrong, with all due regards, you get drawn to the power. In this case, look at the book price on an Amazon with algorithms wrongly calculated. It's gone through the roof. The second thing was about the fake news. Today, many of you have heard about this whole aspect, how fake news on different digital social channels is creating a havoc. Somewhere algorithms are playing a trick over there, which is what we say when human biases becomes more conducive in terms of creating a disruption, this could happen kind of a thing. And this is an internal, I would say, eternal debate happening today within organizations, nations that look, can you control the power of algorithms? Now, this is where I start the journey about artificial intelligence. An average human being today takes about 60 odd decisions, 64 to be precise, strategic, operational, tactical. What is that I have to do after this session? What is my career plan for the next 5 years? How do I manage relationships? These are some of, I would say, the decisions we all take in each and every part of our life. The fact today is that several of the decisions we take are influenced by our experience, gut, intuition, and also influenced by our spouses, friends, and colleagues. That's a fact. Now think of a scenario today which is happening. Many of our decisions, in a very concerted fashion, is happening through algorithms. How do we consume, buy, manage our lives, products, and relationships are also being governed by algorithms. What happens in that case? The fact today is that some of these examples, many of you are aware, machines are outperforming humans in every direction. Image, voice, text and video analytics, which is the crux of AI, is outperforming every dimension. Machines are learning on their own, machines are getting more intelligent, and that's challenging the humanity in a big way. And the fact here, many of us will question, if machines will do all the work, and to the extent there is also talk and concern about machines displacing a lot of jobs getting lost, what will humans do? I have a theory which I want to kind of take out here, that what will happen in that case with the examples I want to outline. One, the fact today is that UI will become very, very pervasive, ubiquitous, mainstream in a short span of time. Alongside the cost of AI will drop. What is considered as, I would say, very prohibitive will become very, very accessible in the time to come. And also, all problems will be actually reframed as an AI process. And I want to give you some examples of that. Also take you through that for the concerns which are emerging from AI, let me also give you that actually, if we go into the external side of the world, there is a lot happening on the AI side. Close to about $26 to $40 billion have been spent on AI alone in last 1 year. We are talking about a new segment of $100 billion getting created in 5 to 6 years from now, where all AI service providers, consulting, product companies will be able to be part of that. And if you include RPA, then we are talking about a big $150 billion segment. This is a new category which wasn't there a few years back. And if you see the growth rate, it's tremendous. And this is one technology I keep on saying which is growing phenomenally, much, much better and higher than any other technology. The second, even adoption is going up. 75% of the C-suites, executives of the top companies are saying they will implement AI in next year or so within their organization. So the rate of adoption is far more accelerated than what we can think. And if we take all the analysts, all the views from the market, the fact is that AI is not a spent force. There is a lot of dollar value impact, business impact, which is getting realized if AI comes to the picture in terms of increasing the top line, kind of looking at the bottom line, creating cost efficiencies, and even managing all that supply chain marketing activations for the organizations. And somewhere I relate to this one particular number you see on the right side. For the competition who's a bit slow, the laggards will have a huge problem because close to about $1.2 trillion of money will be stolen from the companies which are pioneers in AI from the competition. Such is the extent of, I would say, numbers which are again collated from multiple sources can give you some direction that, look, behind all these theories, conceptual, contextual kind of frameworks, there is a reality which means that AI is actually for real in terms of being a potential game changer for the organizations. And as I say that, eventually, what are we striving for in terms of AI? It's not a new concept. Everyone knows that from the time supercomputers. Many of you would have watched this movie, Imitation Game, Alan Turing. The fact today is that at every stage, we are trying to mimic the human brain in terms of being the best, which can come through the machine. How robustly it can come through the machine, that's a different thing. But ability to act, perceive, kind of, let's say, or think is something what is built in our minds. And that's where you see AI mimicking or possibly attempting to mimic the human brain. Now it's linked to decision making. I talked about decision making, that if decision making processes are getting handled by algorithms and AI, what does humanity do? And look at, and I want to give some examples out there, how smartly today AI has been able to penetrate into the organizations in terms of influencing our decision making. I want to start with one dimension, which is in terms of augmenting intelligence. And let me start with the example right away. Now, look at this today, that we, in a mode of being, some of us work in analytics AI organization, we always say, let's build the best of the algorithms, best of the models. But the fact, I was talking to Dr. Sameer before, that out of 8 algorithms being made, only one gets implemented, while there is a technique issue or there could be an effort issue, but the fact is organizations are not willing to invest unless they see the right efficacy, robustness from the models. And still that is not enough. Now if you want to look at the best of the model, obviously the data is very crucial and data can be gathered from multiple sources. But here, in the age of AI, the sophistication of image, voice, text and video is throwing a different dynamics. So on the left, if you see this picture, everyone knows this figure, right? Mark Zuckerberg. Though he's been in the news for the wrong reason. But the fact over here is Mark Zuckerberg or any listed company, CEO, is up with the investors, VC, funds in every earnings call. In every earnings call, I have never heard a CEO talking wrong or a bit, I would say, low about the organization's future or health. But the fact is, numbers speak, and numbers can be made. But for the investors who have put in money, for the shareholders who have put in money to buy the scripts, how do you decipher if the numbers really have some base or there is some issue about the organization? And today the fact is that every earning call is being analyzed by a lot of analytics and AI professionals. So what happens is when a CEO walks in and he or she starts talking about the organization in terms of numbers, every voice modulation is being analyzed. So any lump in the throat, any kind of a weakness in the voice is considered a sign where something is wrong. Now fact is CEOs are smart. They can be tutored, they can be rehearsed in terms of this. But what happens in a board or a kind of earnings meeting? You also have in the background a lot of the CXOs, a chief finance officer, a chief commercial officer, a chief marketing or a compliance or a communication officer. So if the CEO is maintaining a very positive momentum about the organization, but the CFO at the back is maintaining a straight poker face, there's something wrong. Now, by the way, this is all happening on a real-time basis, video feeds, image, voice, text, all talking to each other. Such kind of a computational power can give you an indication that, look, there's something over there which is why you should or shouldn't kind of invest. Cut to a right. This is a satellite image of a US retail mall. Traditionally, all these images were being analyzed to deduce what's the footfall in that mall. The fact today is that these images today, a video feed which is a live video feed, are being analyzed on a minute by minute basis. The footfalls of the cars, the density of the cars, the make, the models, the time the cars have actually made themselves parked in that parking lot, to extrapolate what could be the financial projection of that company in next 3 months. So all that data from non-obvious sources is coming into the picture to kind of understand what can possibly go right or wrong for the organization.
Over here, over here! No, come on, come on, come on! Side! To the side! Such a good job!
Some glitch actually. Anyway, so let me give you what exactly, and glitches usually shouldn't happen when all these things are there, but this is the thing where I say that this is a final match of a Super Bowl thing in US, and close to about $160 billion gets spent on one single Super Bowl match. One TV commercial costs about $3 to $4 million. And there are high stakes where the CMOs are putting their brands and their careers online. Because the fact is, if you miss seeing those ads, you lose that humongous money. And the fact today is that at some stage you realize that, look, at the end of the day, it's just a 90 minutes match, and what can you make out of this? So at some level, when a CEO next morning may ask a CMO, what was wrong? I didn't see your ad. I think somewhere this was getting reflected. Unfortunately, we don't have the voice, but every video feed is being analyzed on a real-time basis and labeled and annotated. And if you didn't notice, on the jersey of the players, on the turf of the aisles, across the stadium galleries, these were the brands which were getting displayed in a split microsecond, just through an example of marketing mix modeling, just to make the life of a CMO simpler by saying, Mr. CEO, you would have seen the ads, but this is how it was getting denoted. This is the example of how decision making is getting changed around AI in the time to come. Now, healthcare. Now, this is one segment which I'm very positive about how the change in healthcare will also give a lot of, I would say, change in terms of jobs and also in terms of what AI can do. The fact over there is that there is a job which is being done by a lot of medical practitioners which will go for a change. I'll give an example out here that today, the most glamorous aspect in medicine is studying radiology. So much of money one pays to become a radiologist. The fact is, a radiologist takes about 15 minutes to analyze a CT scan, X-ray, MRI, and still has, I would say, deficiencies in terms of analyzing what can go wrong. A typical example, in a chest, 15 different elements or symptoms can happen which can go wrong. The same thing a deep learning algorithm fed into the machine can do in few milliseconds and millions of X-ray, CT scans and MRIs. So the first thing, eventually all of us will ask, what's the job of a radiologist? Just park your thoughts, I'll come to this. Now this is something I say that, okay, while we have examples of AI being used for organizations, different kind of, let's say, segments, and this is something close to my heart in terms of what AI is doing for humanity. Now, this is a picture of a gentleman on the right, Saqib Sheikh. Saqib is born and bred up in Pakistan. He moved to US about 14 years back, got a job in Microsoft, and in the very first month of he being there with Microsoft and Saqib discussed and said, Saqib, let's make your life interesting. And Saqib said, look, I'm visually impaired, I can't see. What the heck you're talking about making my job, or rather my life, magical? They said, okay, wait. So what they did, they gave Saqib a pair of glasses. Not an ordinary pair of glasses. These glasses, what he's wearing in the picture, has innate ability to click pictures on the go. So whenever Saqib steps out, goes to his neighborhood, goes to his office to meet his friends, he wears these glasses. And the fact is, Saqib can't see. So even if the glasses have ability to click pictures on the go, what is happening is that Saqib is wearing those two earphones. On a real-time basis, Saqib is able to hear from the live pictures that 10 meters ahead of you, Saqib, there is probably a 15-year-old kid on a skateboard wearing a black shoes with a kind of a beige trousers and blue jersey. Would you like to meet him? Imagine image, text, video coming together to change the life of Saqib in a very magical way. And this is where we say when AI talks to humanity, magic happens. The next piece on the automation. I think the theory today is that automation will replace jobs. The fact is, today we are at a cusp where we're talking about human-machine rebalancing. Jobs will not be lost. Let me come to this theory by giving some examples. Now, this is where, this is an example of a large pharmacy chain and one of the stores. In US, if there is a wrong prescription for a drug or a medicine is being given, it's very, very lethal because 7,000 deaths are happening in US every year because of wrong prescription of the drugs or medicine. And 14 billion worth of lawsuits are getting filed. And this US pharmacy chain said enough is enough. We can't just live with those errors being made by the pharmacist across the counter. So what they did, they deployed a robotic human arm at the store front of a pharmacy chain, one of the stores. And this robotic arm scans the image of the prescription very fast, goes through the store across the aisles, picks up the medicine, and while the arm goes through the store, it also analyzes the last 15-20 kind of, let's say, prescription of the same kind of element or disease of the patient, because let's remember in US the health records are unified, and gives that prescription to the patient at the counter in 60 seconds. 99.8% accuracy in the last 15 months is what this humanoid robotic arm has done. Now, in the same case, what will a pharmacist do? In the previous case, I mentioned about radiologists. In this case, it's pharmacists. Now, my version is that a radiologist requires a degree not just to scan, analyze MRIs, CT scans, or X-rays. In the same case, a pharmacist never goes through a course just to kind of give medicine across the counter. Their job is to counsel the well-being of the patients. Somewhere in this whole mix of the task getting mundane, it's getting lost. And this is what automation AI will do. Automation will take out the daily chores or the task. Jobs will be redefined. The job of a radiologist is to counsel the patient for the well-being, and same as the pharmacist to say that what else the patient should do for getting rectified quickly. I think these are the changes which will happen in majority of the jobs. This example, this is and this is something which is also implemented in India in the metro setup. I mean, nothing great, but the fact today is that the biggest vulnerable kind of a machine in a fast-moving train is a door. The door doesn't open or shut as a cause of a fatality. Preventive asset maintenance pieces, sensors talking to each other, data on a live feed gives examples of how machines can go for a overhauling or maintenance much before they are going to fail. So this is one example of what he said, that how do you start preempting the things using AI. And this is one live feed of a video kind of a, let's say, image. Now, this is a live feed of a Chinese e-commerce work store, rather a warehouse. Some 2,200 workers are working at any given point of time, 24/7 warehouse. And there is a lot of activity because transactions in an e-commerce setup happens 24/7. And workers have fatigue, workers have kind of, let's say, issues in terms of morale. And what is happening out here, that this is not about a field where the security guys are looking in terms of infringements or trespassing or who's kind of mugging what kind of a stuff. The HR executives and managers are analyzing these video feeds to understand that when the fatigue is very high, that is the time they want to award the workers with what we say spot on the spot awards or pat on the back awards. Look at how today even the functions, HR, finance, marketing, what I related, are redefining how they're using AI in a different way. In the last piece, I say that eventually in this whole battle of machine-human beings, we are losing an aspect which is often ignored, is human behavior. The fact today is that all the problems are behavioral problems. There is a theory, many of you would have read a book called Nudge. Dr. Richard Taylor, he's just won a Nobel Prize. The theory, in a very simplistic term, talks about that when rules, regulation, enforcement do not work, nudges comes to the picture to solve the problem. Now, you may have all the data, you may have all the best of the algorithms, but how do you make a user or a consumer adopt to that scenario? This is an example of how the human behavior through a nudge comes into the picture. This is an example of a toothbrush, Oral-B toothbrush, which has a sensor. No great deal. A lot of brushes or devices have sensors today. The brush also comes with an app which you can download on the mobile. Now the fact today is that an average brushing time is 2 minutes. Many of us, I can tell you, don't brush for that time. Specifically kids. They have a huge problem in the morning when they have to go to the school that brushing is a big problem. Now, what this app does through the brushing, when the kid is up in the morning and brushing the teeth, the app is analyzing, the sensor rather is analyzing on the go that what time elapsed happened on the brushing, what contours the brush was there in terms of the mouth, what kind of, let's say, other signals and data it can provide. So there is a visual dashboard on your mobile. As a parent, you can see what the kid is doing. Good enough. Now, if the kid brushes less than 2 minutes, there is a big frowning face on the visual dashboard of the mobile with a kind of a screeching noise, which the kid, today we all know that how we are governed by emoticons and emojis. If the kid sees that in the morning, I'm sure the parent and the kid will not like it. So the kid goes back, brushes for 2+ minutes, there is a happy jingle, and the kids like it. The fact is, this brush got used more by the adults. Now, this is where I say that, okay, this US kind of a store tried everything with the ice cream makers to increase the sale of that particular brand of ice cream. Nothing worked. They changed the layout, they changed the kind of a shelf space, they kind of changed different kind of, let's say, promotion schemes they introduced. Nothing worked. Until they introduced this thing. I hope the audio works this time. This jingle. Go back to the time when we used to eat ice cream on the go. Many of us in the front row and out here can now feel that we are quite old, but the fact is this is something which just a kind of enticing us to kind of reach to that location of the store and pick up the ice cream. Now, the volume is working through this. I mean, the machine does something in terms of noise which no one can relate, and specifically kids. They just can't see themselves in an MRI room. 80% is the sedation rate amongst the kids. And what this manufacturer did, he did this. He changed the design just by analyzing the emotion moods of the kids to give them an experience that it's nothing short of a spaceship. And now the sedation rate came down to 10%. So somewhere when you have all the data, you have all that analysis, how do you fast accelerate user adoption is something which is a key. One more example of human behavior is something what I want to toss. Let's look at this clip. My bad on the audio. Who can explain this? And how many of you want the solution to be implemented in Bangalore? The fact over is that Paris government did everything, okay? But they also have a similar challenge. Fatalities kept on happening, nothing worked in terms of intervention, rewards. Till the time they said, okay, let's bring human behavior study analysis into the element. What they did was to install cameras on the traffic lights. Everyone does that, but the cameras were actually being positioned in a way where if someone is crossing the road when they should not, the camera is clicking picture, there is a billboard on the side, and you get your picture. If the death happens through kind of a road accident, how does it look like? That emotion is good enough for you to decide rest of your life that you will not cross the road. And I think this is where I say that how human behavior coalesced in conjunction with intelligence, AI, can make us take a different decision altogether. And this is where I say that eventually, what is the secret sauce in terms of how AI can change the situations in terms of decision making. First, let me give a very provocative thought that AI alone cannot solve the problem. It's a three-dimensional. It has to come with what I say, very strong ability for students like you to understand data engineering, data lakes, data architecture, because unless you know how the data is mediated, harmonized, you can't build the best of the models. The last is the design piece. Design thinking, behavioral science, the whole aspect of understanding the user behavior is very, very important. What is the problem you're trying to solve? What is the decision you want the organization to take when they implement these AI solutions is something what should be kept in mind. And look at this whole ad, you will realize that how it's changing today. Can we have the audio, please?
Brussels Motor Show, the biggest car event in Belgium, where all car brands show off their newest technologies. With the first car that could recruit its own technicians, Volvo presents the recruiting car. Job openings were announced on social media, inviting everyone to come and check out the first car that recruits its own engineers. To conduct the interviews, we tapped into the car's technology.
Welcome, Oliver. Glad to see you put on your blue shirt for the interview. Can you show me where my electric compressor is?
Sure.
Please allow me to play some piano music to make you feel more comfortable. Tell me, why should I hire you?
I think by applying AI, we could actually test social and technical skills and make unbiased evaluations of all applicants. These were sent to Volvo's HR managers for further interviews. Changing the conversation from cars to jobs got us some national media attention. 70% of all the news coverage about the Brussels Motor Show was dedicated to Volvo. More than 1 in 2 Belgians was reached through PR coverage alone, leading to 300% more price requests. And the 200 vacancies, well, they were all filled.
One analogy I would like to give now for the students who are starting this course, that when you are in classroom, you may be analyzed and watched by the recruiters, if we go by this analogy, because at some level, such will be the technology advancement. This clearly gives the example how future of work looks like. And if I have to just wrap up and kind of say that what it means for us as humans, professionals, I think it's time for all of us to augment our intelligence. Every revolution, be it an industrial, agriculture, now AI revolution, always redefines humanity in different way. I think for this time, the redefinition is all of us will have to augment our intelligence. Second, a bit provocative but true, never send a human to do a machine job. We are meant to do something more productive, meaningful, and that's what this technology will do. And the last, beyond all these rhetoric, all these hoopla, the fact is, let's not just talk about AI first. It's humanity first. Thank you so much for your time.